Muscle memory is a very abstract topic, and a lot of people, they don't understand that behind mechanics is the idea of training your muscle memory, and it's very specific and it's kind of hard sometimes to explain to people. But with this video, I'll try simplify it and try give you some helpful advice in order to improve your muscle memory to a much greater extent, which will, I think, help you in the long term when trying to learn mechanics and practice to get better at them. First up, I'd say building repetition in your training is a lot more important than any other thing someone will tell you about training or about improving your mechanics, any other piece of advice. Being repetitive in your training, as boring as it sounds or as weird as it sounds, is so much more important than trying to train on many different mechanics and many different elements of the game. You're not going to get anywhere with that, and you're kind of, I guess, speeding up the process of being hard stuck if you're consistently alternating between your training. Having 2 or 3 training packs max to work on is a lot more beneficial to you than trying to do 5 or 6 and then trying to do comp and casual and fit all of those together, and free play for that matter, because if you're trying to do all that, muscle memory isn't really a big factor then of improvement, which for me, this is why I focus on a lot as well. It's trying to simplify things to an extent that you will understand them, and I think muscle memory, to make it simple for you, it's like real life exercise. You're playing Rocket League, your brain is trying to memorize, brain is trying to utilize past experiences to find a way to do the mechanic, find a way to play the game. It's very simple stuff. But building this repetition and building repetitive drills, such as taking very similar shots, like hook shots from similar angles, will teach you, for example, let's say from the left, will teach you to be very, very good at hook shots while driving in from the left. Then you can start doing that next day on the right. Try to take things step by step. Another tip I'd give you when it comes to mastering, and I think getting the most out of mechanics, and I guess learning them the fastest, by also improving your muscle memory at least, would be to, for example, if you are a guy who is trying to get better air roll, or you don't really think you utilize it as well, like that's me for example, a lot of the times I won't utilize it enough, I'd straight up say go in casuals and just try overdo it. I know it sounds silly, but seriously, go in casual and try overdo your air roll. Use a lot more air roll in every single aerial shot you'll get. Believe me, just do it every single time, even if it's not necessary always, just do it and get a feel for when it's wrong and when it's right. Because not doing it enough is probably worse than doing it constantly, because I think at least constantly you'll start seeing where the flaws in your air roll and your movement really lies in. Whereas if you're not doing it, you're not really getting any piece of information and no intel on what your biggest flaw in the air is and near the ground, because you have to air roll almost everywhere to recover, to shoot, and honestly for pretty much any fancy mechanic you want to learn, air roll has to be there and it has to be implemented correctly. Otherwise, you won't get far and you won't really improve your muscle memory, especially in the air. A lot of people also just don't realize that behind working your mechanics and behind improvement is the element of your muscle memory, and your muscle memory will be the only driving factor, your most important driving factor I'd say actually, when it comes to improving your mechanics. And mechanics are such a difficult thing, I guess, to really master, because I mean, it may look, you might see pros double flip resetting, triple flip resetting, but that's like the clips you only see of them. That's only the best clips you'll see of them, and most of the time they're actually very, very game sense grounded players. So trying to become mechanical isn't the idea I'm trying to push to you through this video. For very basic things, for even like for boost or management or things like that, that's kind of game sense related, and that's again muscle memory. But specifically for mechanics, which require a very high level of strong muscle memory and memorization in order to pull off that mechanic accurately and consistently. So that also kind of links back and ties back to the point where I said you should be taking breaks between your training sessions, because you kind of allow your brain then a kind of a breather, and then right after that it's like you tell your brain, okay, now can you remember it again? Like when you get back into training, can you pull off that same flip reset again, similar style? Can you do it consistently again? Or was it just a period, or was it a fluke, the first one? So that's what kind of I'm trying to prove to you through this video, is that a lot of people probably don't do a lot of these enough, don't have a repetitive enough exercise regime, and they don't really follow a lot of these tips, which I think would push you forward. And I really do think you should follow them, because ultimately improving your muscle memory is the most important thing, regardless of what people say in mechanics. It's the most important thing to learning anything and mastering it. believe me. And I guess kind of as a final piece of advice I'd give you personally is to not really pressure yourself too much and not do the same thing way too much. So when I was saying be repetitive in your training, it doesn't mean do that same training pack for 2 hours or an hour. Don't just push yourself to that extent, because you're kind of risking a burnout there, and burnouts are probably what's going to keep you back more than anything, and they will hit you back a lot harder, while also just not really helping you improve your muscle memory at all when trying to learn mechanics. So avoid burnouts at all times. You have to know the signs when they're there of burnout, and you have to try avoid them in time. Otherwise, it will be very, very painful trying to get back onto that grind while not finding the game too dull, or or getting hard stuck. Even, it's all these things that play a role when it comes to avoiding a burnout. So please make sure you avoid burnout, especially when it comes to training mechanics and trying to get better muscle memory to achieve better mechanics in a weird way. The idea is to look at you fundamentally, look at your training fundamentally, and look at everything a little bit differently, because the only way of improvement is by looking at your flaws. And a lot of people's flaws when it comes to almost everything is that they've not really developed yet the ideal muscle memory. Honestly, if there's one thing you can take away from this video, is that positive habits build positive progress, and this is no different for muscle memory, especially in almost any game, and especially Rocket League. And I'll say it again, and I'll keep saying it, because when an environment is so fast-paced and it's extremely frenetic, it's played at a very fast, frenetic pace, that means that it's much tougher to find consistency sometimes, especially when you're not playing well. And that's usually down to the fact that you don't have that consistent memory of different situations, different shots, different requirements for your playstyle. All that is down to your muscle memory, and that's really all I'd say as a final point for this video. And you need to keep that in mind always. Keep building positive habits, keep being consistent, and keep training to an extent that it allows your game to keep growing. Otherwise, you'll stagnate and you'll plateau, and eventually you'll become hard stuck, as we've said before. So please keep grinding, don't stop the grind. If you're motivated, keep going. Be repetitive in your training, but not overdoing it at the same time. And as always, avoid burnout at all times. Look at the signs of burnout and immediately get out of that track and take a break, take a step back, analyze what went wrong in certain games. And that's how you build muscle memory, improvement in mechanics, game sense, and pretty much everything, down to the very knowledge of your game. And I think we'll tie it up there, the end of the video. Don't want to drag this out too long, because I think if I really had to get really deep dive into a deep dive at least into muscle memory, it would be like a 20-minute video, and to be honest, I don't know if you have the energy for that, and I don't know if I have the energy for that. So we'll leave it there. Thank you for watching. Thanks for sticking up till this point of the video. If you're still here, make sure to like, stick around by subscribing. Hopefully Discord can keep growing, and if you want to be a part of that growth, it's down below in the description and the comments. But that'll do it for today. Thanks for watching, have a good one, and I'll see you next time.